and wonderful. And why don't you show that more? Why don't you tell people that you're not this tragic figure and this, you know? And she said, because they like me the other way. And that's my job. See, the best advice I can give you is give the people what they want and then go get a hamburger.
Liza followed her mother's advice and concentrated on pleasing her audience. She was just 3 years away from making the movie that would make her name and cinema history, Cabaret. Cabaret is the movie that changed Liza Minnelli's life forever. Liza lost out in the original Broadway production when the producer chose an English actress for the role. When director Bob Fosse made the show into a movie, he made Sally an American. Liza got the part she always wanted. But by then, movies of Broadway musicals were out of fashion.
It was one of those films that almost didn't get made because musicals were in such poor repute at the box office at the time. And Cabaret was a very difficult subject for a musical.
The story was set in 1930s Germany during the Nazis' rise to power.
Even though it was no longer Nazi Germany, there was still enough of that still left over that created an unease and an excitement and a disturbing atmosphere.
With a small budget, Cabaret was shot on location in Germany. And the studio took a gamble on the director. Bob Fosse's only previous feature was Sweet Charity.
Bob hadn't quite pulled it off in financial terms with Sweet Charity, although he'd got an enormous amount of kudos, and already that Fosse style had started to be formed. But Bob had this vision of how he wanted it done.
When she and the crew and Bob Fosse went to Germany to make the movie, it was almost like they were doing it secretly because they didn't have the watchful eye of the Hollywood execs watching over them. So they were able to take artistic liberties that they might not have gotten away with if the film were made domestically.
Liza turned to her father, Vincent, for advice on how Sally Bowles should look.
I thought that a woman in the late 20s would look like Marlene Dietrich. And Daddy said, you know, there were a lot of other women. And he showed me pictures of Louise Brooks. And he said, you see, you can be strange and extraordinary. So that's when I went and I found Christina Smith, who designed the eyelashes and helped me get the look. And off I went. And every day I did my own makeup. And it was fun to create somebody in the mirror.
Liza had created one of the cinema's most iconic looks. Her biggest challenge, though, was to play Sally Bowles not as the star she was, but as a second-rate artist.
Sally Bowles actually was an unsuccessful actress. She was trying desperately to become a star, which she could never be.
You know, you couldn't be really too good, or else she would have been in a higher paying place than where she was. And I played her as if I had filled in for the woman before me, like an understudy. And those moves had been made on somebody else, and I was kind of acting them out.
That she actually is too good to be Sally Bowles. Really, that was always the big thing, that actually Sally Bowles is, in the books and everything and in the play, isn't really a very good singer, and that's why she doesn't get any further than that little club.
The set Fosse built was almost too realistic.
The Kit Kat Club, it was horrible to be in. It was full of smoke. It was reeked of cheap perfume. It was dark, a little sordid.
So this smoke machine is going all the time. We're all going, ah, you know, and then we'd shoot and try and act natural. But it was killing us. Looked great the way he photographed it. And his editing was genius.
Bob Fosse was enormously creative. He wanted input. He wanted ideas to try things in different ways, to do something unexpected.
It really was his vision and the way his mind works. And that sneaky little thing, it was just slightly dirty, you know? It was like teasingly dirty. And I took it from him and put it into Sally Bowles.
And every time I would have a scene or something, he would come and whisper obscene things in my ear. And I would blush, and he just loved getting all of these reactions.
Fosse drove his stars hard. The dance numbers at the heart of the movie were extremely demanding.
Fosse's moves were so kind of wacky and showy that it was perfect for Sally. Those moves on the chair I had in Cabaret, that lunge, and then up to the kick, and then my foot went way up here, and I don't know. I watched and thought, oh my God, I look like a pretzel.
Bob Fosse is very specific. Everything is a finger, a turn. It's like choreographed. These numbers that we did, like Money, had very, very, very complicated moves that we rehearsed for weeks.
They took a long time to set up, but then when you saw them on film, it was great.
Oh yes, endless takes, endless rehearsals. Endless.
Most of the songs were taken from the original stage show, but not all. Liza wanted to include one of her favorites by Kander and Ebb.
There were a couple of songs that were added, and one of the songs was Maybe This Time, which is on my first album. Fosse said, I don't know, it's kind of dramatic and maybe that. I said, yeah, but it doesn't have to be sung that way. And I sang it for him, and he said, all right, you win. So it was one of those great moments where I said to him, right.
When you make a movie, there's so much to think about. We had very little time, and it was like putting on a show in a barn. You know, that notion of everybody joining in to make something special happen. But we had the sense when we would look at the dailies that we were doing something that nobody had ever quite seen before.
Cabaret was a hit worldwide. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, and Liza was up for Best Actress. She faced stiff competition.
But it was an extraordinary night. I mean, can you imagine sitting there? And I leaned over and I looked at Diana Ross, who I love, right? And she was nominated for Lady Sings the Blues. And I looked over at her, and she had just, introduced somebody else, and now she was in the audience, and she had changed her gown. And I thought, oh, she's going to win. And when they said my name, nobody was more surprised than I was.
Her father, Vincent, a two-time Oscar winner himself, was overjoyed.
My father screamed so loudly in my ear, he went, ah, and I got up and went up there, and it was just wonderful.
Liza's winner.
You've got to have a talent for having talent. And I think she certainly proved that.
You know, there's times in life that are magical like that, where everything works.
Liza was 27 when she won her Oscar. She was now as famous as her Oscar-winning parents. She had the world at her feet. By 1973, with an Oscar for Best Actress, Liza Minnelli was on Hollywood's A-list. Liza was now so famous that, like her mother, she was referred to simply by her first name. And that was the title of her one-woman TV show.
I have a problem. Now, wait, it's not a big problem, but it is a problem. It's my name.
Nobody spelled her name right or spoke her name right. People insisted her name was Lisa.
Wrong! My name is Liza. Liza has a Z in it.
And one day we wrote a song about it.
At that point, nobody had ever done just one person. There was no such thing. If you did a special, it was on video, and a woman had 2 male guests, right? If it was a man, 2 female guests. Fosse said, I want that. I want to catch something.
With Bob Fosse directing and choreographing the show and Kander and Ebb writing the songs, Liza had her dream team. In addition, she brought Roy Halston Frowick to the team, who was one of New York's hottest fashion designers.
Halston created that really elegant look of the modern American woman. He really had a way of dressing women that was so beautiful and elegant.
Halston knew how to make Liza look like a superstar. He quickly became one of her closest friends.
Now suddenly here's Halston, who knows how I should look, who gets the way my body is built and the way it looks the best.
Halston really captured her look. I mean, she was made for those clothes, and he adored dressing her because she just knew how to wear them so well. It was another perfect combination. It was like Bob Fosse and Liza. There was Halston in fashion and Liza.
With all the elements in place, Liza was ready to go.
Up until that time, TV specials were all about videotape. Think about what The Tonight Show looks like. Bob Fosse decided that he was going to do everything on film, and he was going to shoot it like a movie. So it was a concert experience, it was a television special experience, and it was a motion picture experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, Liza Minnelli.
Well, that night when that thing opened up and I'm standing there in a white pantsuit and a white fox and a white hat, and I come walking down, the only thing was, he had designed was chiffon that went around here, right, and a silver Peretti belt. Well, it was very telling, so to speak. And they had certain laws back then, and we almost didn't get on some of those outfits.
The dancers with her worked harder because she wasn't the star sloughing off and letting the dancers do all the work. The musicians worked harder because she wasn't walking through it. She was never walking through it. She always gave her all.
We had one performance of that to do the whole thing, one shot. So you work like crazy until this night comes up. And then just the tension backstage, and they didn't make stockings with seams in them. So Christina, my makeup lady, was drawing seams down the back of my legs.
I remember being in the theater for the taping and just being dazzled by what was going on. It was innovative, it was different, it was new, and it was unlike anything you'd ever seen.
When she's singing, she puts everything into the song, and her as a performer, she's got this kind of energy and a vulnerability. The people that we are most attracted to as performers are the ones that let you see into them, that when they're playing a part, you're aware that they're kind of twanging a nerve of themselves that is very real.
It was the perfect star with the perfect songwriters, with the perfect director and choreographer. You couldn't have invented in your mind a better cast of characters. It was like an atom bomb going off.
When Liza with a Z won an Emmy in 1973, it confirmed her status as one of the world's greatest entertainers. Professionally, she was on top, but her private life was a mess.
As loyal as Liza is as a friend, and as sweet and dear as she is not the best judge of men and of who to be close to and who to let in.
After splitting from her husband Peter Allen in 1972, Liza's name was linked with numerous men, including Des Arnaz Jr. and British comedian Peter Sellers.
I was fine if I was in love. That was my philosophy. As long as I could see my reflection in someone else's eyes, I thought I was real.
In 1974, Liza married her second husband, childhood friend Jack Haley Jr., son of the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz.
She loved fast, she married fast, and she divorced fast. She's not the only one in our business, there is many.
Her marriage to Haley ended in divorce after just 4 years. Within 12 months, she married again. Husband number 3 was sculptor Marc Guiraud.
I don't think she's ever had a really happy marriage. She's married a few men without thinking too much about the outcome.
I think in her relationships up to now, it's always been for the wrong reason, or she's never let it be private, or she's never given enough time to actually be friends with the person. It's always been rushed.
It's not easy to find a man who is your soulmate and who understands your work and who respects it completely and who's not threatened by it.
Most performers love being up on the stage for a lot of reasons that they don't get in normal life. They're totally in control. For 2 hours, it's theirs. And in a way, it's like they're ready for this. They're used to this. This is what they do.
Marriage hadn't brought Liza lasting happiness, but her love affair with the stage was reward enough. Soon she would take over the leading role in a Broadway show, turning it from disaster to sellout in just 6 days. By 1975, Liza Minnelli was the queen of showbiz, but the Broadway blockbuster she'd always dreamed of continued to elude her. In New York, John Kander and Fred Ebb's latest musical, Chicago, had just opened. But within weeks, it was failing at the box office, despite being directed by Bob Fosse and starring his wife, Gwen Verdon. When Verdon fell sick, the show was set to close.
I was living out in Hollywood, and Fred comes to visit, and he said, we're in terrible trouble.
Word came that Gwen was about to leave the show.
And I said, I'll fill in for her till she comes back. And Freddie said, really? I don't know. I said, no, I want to. I've always wanted to play the role. And if you need me, I'll be there. You know, I'd like to do it.
And I called New York and I said, what if Liza Minnelli did it? Great jubilation on the other end.
Then Sammy Davis, when I told him I was going to do it, said, this is the worst move you have ever made. You would let the understudy go on Broadway. That's why there are understudies. No star ever goes on for another star. It's unheard of. It's lowering yourself.
I was thrilled, absolutely excited. And she worked so hard.
You don't have very much time to learn the part.
No.
What does that mean in terms of your schedule? How many hours? Staying up late?
Yeah. Well, you know, you keep going until you learn it.
Liza had just 6 days to learn the role.
See, Broadway was my first love. And Bobby and John and Fred, those are all the people that made me famous. That did Cabaret, that did Flora, that did my show. I mean, my God, anything in the world I could ever do for them would not be enough.
With her name on the marquee, Liza's 5-week run sold out in just 1 day.
Well, Liza brought Liza, and that's huge and fabulous and big and a whole different kind of audience. And we had a blast.
And an audience who groaned when they said, tonight the part of Roxy Hart, usually played by Gwen Verdon, and you'd hear, will be played by Liza Minnelli. And it was like a party there.
The dynamism, the excitement, the energy, the crackle in that theater. People were screaming and cheering and yelling. And it was like she had reinvented the show.
I came to my dressing room, and it was filled with flowers. I couldn't get in it. And they were from Sammy, saying, when you're wrong, and boy, was I wrong. I love you. I'm proud of you, Sammy.
A show that was going to close became a smash hit because Liza Minnelli was in it.
Liza had turned Chicago from a flop to a Broadway hit. 5 months later, in the spring of 1976, she started work on a movie that was close to her heart, New York, New York. Movie director Martin Scorsese set his first musical in the Manhattan of the 40s and 50s. He cast Robert De Niro as an inspiring saxophone player named Jimmy Doyle, and Liza as singer Francine Evans.
Marty was great with me because he conducted me behind the camera. That had never happened to me before, and I could see him out of the corner of my eye always, and he'd go, you know, and he'd do this, which meant speed it up. And He didn't do that with De Niro, but he knew that I reacted well to that, being a director's daughter.
Scorsese pushed his leading actors to the limit, constantly rewriting the script.
He would leave us alone to improvise, but he had a tape recorder on. So we would improvise, and it would be endless, you know, and we'd get to here, and then we'd finally find our way somehow to there. And then what his wife, Julia, did, and what he did, they went back, and from what we had improvised, they wrote the scene. It becomes a process. If you're working with Bobby, who is it, and we're doing a scene, and let's say that he just has to say, "What do you want for breakfast?" Then my answer is toast and coffee. He'd say, "No, what do you want?" I'd say, "Toast and coffee." He'd say, "No, wait, listen to me. What do you want for breakfast?" I'd say, "Toast and coffee." And until it rang true to Bobby, he wouldn't go on with the scene.
You got a pencil or something? Give me. All right, well, I have a photographic memory. Just give me a number and I'll remember.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Can I meet you at Central Park?
My father taught me acting as hearing something for the first time and saying something for the first time. So I never knew what Bobby was going to say, and he never knew what I was going to say, but I just reacted in the style that I knew that character would react in.
Well, you can skip it because I've heard every angle here tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Despite its glittering cast and huge budget, the movie wasn't a success. Though the title song became Kander and Ebb's greatest hit, it nearly wasn't.
Scorsese said almost apologetically that De Niro had felt that the song New York, New York was too weak, and would we mind taking another swipe at it? Well, we left the room very stiffly.
They took another swipe at it and produced the song that's become the anthem of Liza's favorite city.
He was absolutely right, of course. So basically, we owe that entire song to Robert De Niro. Have we ever actually met him to tell him that?
I haven't.
Anyway, if he's watching this show right now, it's thanks to you, Bob.
It's a great song. You never get tired of singing it. It's a wonderful, wonderful song. And it hits notes. It's about strength and survival and humor and determination.
New York, New York immortalized the city Liza loved. But that city was about to bring Liza to a new low. In the 1970s, New York was the wildest city on earth, and Studio 54 was its hottest nightclub. The brainchild of Steve Rubell, it gained its reputation overnight when Liza's friend, fashion designer Halston, decided to give Bianca Jagger a party.
It's Bianca's birthday, and Halston wanted to do something for her. And he said, "Steve has a wonderful new club that just opened, don't you, Steve?" Steve said, "Uh-huh." And he said, "Well, why don't we have Bianca's birthday there?" And he said, we're not open on Sunday. We're closed." And Halston said, "Open it." And they went there, and the next minute, it was in Vogue magazine, Harper's Bazaar, because of these elegant people that Halston had brought.
Andy Warhol and Halston and Liza and Truman Capote and Diana Vreeland and just wonderful, extraordinary people. It was just a very effervescent period of life.
Studio 54 just happened, and it was like lightning struck. The whole of New York seemed to have come alive, and Liza Minnelli certainly was the statue on the hood of that Rolls Royce.
With celebrity guests like Liza, the club could pick and choose who joined in the fun.
It was part of being an insider. You could get in or you couldn't get in, or you had to get somebody to get you in.
No, you're not shaved. There's no way in a million years you're going to get in. It doesn't matter if you're not shaved. Listen, just go home.
For Liza, Studio 54 seemed like it was home. On any given night, she could be seen dancing with close friends that included Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, and ballet dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov.
The elite place in Cedar 54 was the famous VIP room, which was actually a grungy basement with kind of overhead pipes. Everybody was there, normally doing cocaine or indeed having sex or whatever. That was the place to be.
I used to say those of us who never got invited to go downstairs were very lucky, because so many of the people who did go downstairs ended up dying of addiction or dying of AIDS.
Drugs were rampant. I'd be talking to Liza more than even I used to, just to make sure that things were okay.
Studio 54 closed after just 18 months, but the party and the decadence continued. Liza would eventually lose both her close friend, Halston, and first husband, Peter Allen, to AIDS. For Liza, it was drinking drugs that took the biggest toll.
Everybody has martini and a half, right? Some feel sleepy, some are a little silly, they get giddy. I feel great! I have found the answer. That's the way it affects my brain.
Alcohol is a monster. I mean, alcohol is one of the most addictive things.
And it's a liar, and it can steal your life right out from under you. You don't know it's a disease. You don't know you have it. So you just suddenly feel better than you've ever felt, and you go along until it's running you. You're not running it.
In 1984, Liza checked into the Betty Ford Clinic. She has continued to battle her addictions for over 20 years.
The thing about a real addiction is that it is with you forever. And so the courage, I think, is for you to remember that and to keep your life in a state that is going to enable you to get through your life without letting the addiction control you.
Liza tried to regain control of her life. When she married Mark Giro in 1979, she was pregnant by him. Tragically, she miscarried just 6 days after their wedding. Work eased her heartache. In 1980, she co-starred with Dudley Moore in Arthur. She played a shoplifting New York waitress rescued by an eccentric millionaire who falls in love with her. The romantic comedy was a big hit. Outside work, the most important man in her life was still her father. Vincent had been there for his daughter through the good times and the bad. In his latter years, Alzheimer's had diminished Vincent's life. When he died in 1986, Liza was devastated.
She had a bond with her father that was very special to the very end, and it was one of the hardest times that she ever went through. She was truly bereft, and it's because she had lost a kind of soulmate.
He was very funny, very gentle, very witty, very kind. He was always there, just supporting her.
Liza picked herself up and got back on the road. She played a record-breaking 3 weeks at Carnegie Hall. A year later, she toured with two showbiz greats, Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. in The Ultimate Event. Liza was back on top, but professional success was soon clouded by private unhappiness when she separated from third husband, Mark Giro. In 1991, Liza announced her most ambitious stage show ever, a season of concerts at New York's biggest venue, Radio City Music Hall.
She sold out 3 weeks at Carnegie Hall, so the next logical step was 3 weeks at Radio City.
One of the largest theaters in the world, Liza was at first overwhelmed.
It was completely empty, and I was all by myself. And I walked out onto that stage and stood there, and I almost threw up. It's so big. It seemed bigger than any place I had ever played, bigger than Carnegie Hall, bigger than anything, standing on that stage. And I was frightened. Well, I went there for 2 weeks straight. I had to lie on the floor at every place, just lie there and accept, it sounds so weird, but just accept that theater and that I was safe and it would be all right and that it wasn't as scary.
On stage, She knows what she's doing more than anybody, and that's the place where she can have the most confidence, because who better?
And so many people love it and relate to it because you're not holding back. You're like almost nude in front of a whole bunch of people. So people love to see nudity, period. So to see a nude spirit is like, wow.
There was a lot riding on it. Also, there was a lot of money put into it. So there was a lot at risk. So there was a lot of reasons to be nervous, actually, but she came through.
Liza's 3-week run at Radio City in 1991 was the highest grossing theater engagement in America that year.
It was thrilling, and every star you can imagine was there, and it was great reviews, and it's just what you hope for.
Liza's Radio City show included songs from her father Vincent's most famous musicals.
She knew her mother's name would stay alive, but Vincent's name, because he was a director, is not something that is as well remembered. And she made it sort of her mission to keep his name alive.
Liza created Minnelli on Minnelli as a tribute to her father. From Broadway designer to Hollywood director, he made Gigi and An American in Paris. Vincent's career read like a history of American entertainment.
It was wonderful because I got to research my father, because he never talked about the past. He never told me he had 5 shows running on Broadway at the same time. He was so in the present and going forward like everybody in that city.
At the heart of her tribute were songs from her father's Hollywood musicals.
I got to celebrate how much I loved him. And that was so important to me.
Even though she resembles her mother with being a singer and having some similar traits, she takes more from her father in terms of her outlook on life and art and how to get through things.
After its Broadway run, Liza was set to take the show on tour, but she became ill. Her health deteriorated, and she was close to death. Then she met the man who would become her 4th husband, David Guest. In 2002, Liza Minnelli announced her engagement to 4th husband, David Guest. No one imagined she would live to see this day. The previous decade began and ended in tragedy. In 1990, 2 of her dearest friends, fashion designer Halston and Sammy Davis Jr., had both passed away. In 1999, on the 30th anniversary of her mother's death, Liza herself OD'd on alcohol and nearly died. She had physical problems too. 40 years of punishing stage shows had taken a huge toll on her body.
She would do a show, the curtain would come down, and she would be limping. She would be taking, a couple Advil here, 4 here, just to try to keep the pain off.
My hip started to go. So every move I made was agony. And my other hip went, and I had to replace that. And then, of course, lately I had to do my knee, and I have 3 crushed discs that had just landed on each other like old, like a boarded fence.
It took 2 hip replacements and a knee operation to get Liza back on her feet. In 2000, her health deteriorated again. Her weight ballooned, and she lost her voice.
And it sent her into depression. I mean, you can't sing, you can't go out and make money, you don't have that, it's depressing. In 2001, it culminated with her encephalitis.
Viral encephalitis caused an inflammation of her brain so severe, her life hung in the balance.
I went down to see her, and I swear to you, I thought, she's never gonna sing again. She's never gonna be who she was, because, it had affected her speech. She was very overweight, and she really was very slurry, and, it was sad, and I was heartbroken.
Liza's career seemed over. Then, a new door opened in her life. Her friend, Michael Jackson, invited Liza to sing at a party to celebrate his 30 years in show business. The producer was David Guest.
Before she met David, I know she was kind of not really keen to go back to the stage. I think had lost confidence, but she was tired, and it's a lot to take on.
But she did take it on. They fell in love, and within months, they were engaged. By the time of their wedding on March 16, 2002, the world was amazed at how Liza had recovered.
She had a man and someone who believed in her, or at least she thought believed in her, to, rally for her.
Guests promptly arranged a comeback show for his new wife titled Liza's Back. But their bright future together didn't last.
David Guest is really quite an energetic, obsessive producer. He can produce. He can make things happen. He just was too possessive of her. And also he wanted to be a big celebrity himself.
I guess my husband, who is a good man, but he liked celebrity. And I knew how to deal with it, You put on a hat, baseball hat, and you go to the park. And I think that was hard for him to understand.
It's a shame that it was him, that's all I can say, because it turned out to be, not what she needed.
She was very attracted to him in the beginning, but he fixed that.
16 months after their fanfare wedding, the couple filed for divorce. But Liza has bounced back and is ready to take on the world.
I think her comebacks are more to do with her personal life than her professional life, really. But with Liza, they're all intertwined. But her best comeback, I think, is coming out of the marriage to David and sort of finding herself again and her friends. And talking to her recently, that's been the thing that has been more important even than the success she's had with her work.
Liza's latest comeback has brought new opportunities. She's the face of MAC Cosmetics.
The idea behind the Icon series was to celebrate someone of legendary style, legendary inner strength, and of incredible beauty, both inner and outer beauty. And Liza Minnelli was our first selection.
She's back to acting, too, with a character role in Fox's primetime sitcom Arrested Development.
Buster?
What are you doing here?
Touch of the disease.
A whole new generation is discovering Liza, including the show's young star.
I was expecting a stretch limousine with the diva and her 50 assistants. But instead, I met this sweet, short woman in sweatpants, no limousine, no 50-foot trailer, no assistants.
I just heard.
Liza's down to earth. Liza does not think of herself as being this thing that everybody else does.
In a joking reference to her health problems, Liza plays a character with extreme vertigo.
I'll get you a drink. Okay.
She played a woman with this crippling vertigo. She was always losing her balance, and we wanted her to be really needy and not know that she was needy. And, Liza was just game. She just loved the idea of being foolish and having fun and being, she's so funny.
It's brilliant to create a character with vertigo, where she keeps falling down. And it allows Liza to do comedy. People don't know she's that funny. They may know her from her dramatic films or some of the tragedies that have happened in her life, but they don't know that sense of humor. And once you get to know that sense of humor and you see it on screen, you just go, wow. I mean, she is giving a performance that we've never seen before, and that's why she's having so much fun. She is having a ball.
Had a very good life, but sometimes people rewrite it, so it sounds tragic, but there have been funny times through everything. And I think your humor is what does get you through.
Liza has an incredibly infectious laugh. One of the most incredible things you can do is to get her to laugh. Because if she laughs, the world's okay. Everything's going to be fine.
When I look back from 16 to now, I can't believe some of the things that I've been lucky enough to witness and to do and to become.
Liza's still on stage after more than 40 years in the business. The most important man in her professional life is Fred Ebb. He's the lyricist who's written everything she's ever wanted to say, including the song that's become her philosophy on life.
And the song is The World Goes Round. Because the words say, sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're sad, but the world goes round.
How tough you think things are, you're not as important as you might think you are.
Take it from me, there's still gonna be a summer, a winter, a fall, and a spring.
She's one of the forces of nature in live performing. There's a half a dozen people who can do that. She's one of them.
I think that probably Liza almost needs to be on the stage until she can find herself a life which, when not on the stage, feels as good.
You cannot deny the facts, and the facts is she's still standing and she looks good and she sounds good.
I think she's like the ultimate survivor.
She really can make you cry, or she can make you laugh, or she really gets to the heart of the lyric.
She's 100% of an entertainer and 100% of an artist.
It's an undefinable thing about stars. And it's almost as though they have their own little halo around them. And that is the case with Liza.
Her talent is incandescent.
She's singly the greatest female performer I've ever seen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mandy Moore.
When I was starting out, some people tried to tell me that you can't be an actress and a singer. Liza Minnelli, an Oscar, Grammy, Emmy, Tony, and Golden Globe award-winning entertainer, proves otherwise beautifully. Liza has become an enduring Hollywood icon and a very real symbol of survival to all sorts of people, because as an artist and as a person, she always leads with her heart. Tonight, GLAAD honors Liza with its Vanguard Award, which goes to a member of the entertainment community who has made a significant difference in promoting equal rights for LGBT people. Like previous winners, including Elizabeth Taylor and Shirley MacLaine, Liza is more than a brilliant entertainer. She is a dedicated humanitarian who for decades has donated her time and talent to many important causes, most notably combating HIV/AIDS. And now it is my honor to present this year's Vanguard Award to the one and only Liza Minnelli.
Thank you so much. Oh, God. Thank you, everybody. I must say, I've been given some awards in my time, but this is very, very important to me. I'm moved and I'm honored to receive this award from a wonderful organization that I deeply believe in, and that's GLAAD. We've helped so many people. We have. Love is the most cherished feeling we have. It's unique to human beings, and if anyone thinks they can dismiss love through politics, they're nuts. They can't. I've always thought that great misunderstanding creates great fear. And any man, woman, teenager who has felt terribly different, and I have felt that way myself, should learn that terrible is not what they should feel. Look, I'm not a politician. I'm a humanist. I know about the human heart, and the human heart must be honored. I'm not really good at speaking. I'm very self-confident. I'm sweating like a horse up here, but I am trying to look all glam, and I'm going, ooh, inside. But I can sing, and so I thought, I'd like to sing a song. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the man who's going to accompany me, Mr. Mark Shaman. Oh, thanks. Happiness. Now, this song is a song that was written by one of my favorite writers in the world, by Charles Aznavour. It's a beautiful song, and it also reminds us of how far we've come, in a great part thanks to Glad. All right, you'll understand in a minute. My mom and I, we live alone. A large apartment is our home in Fairholme Towers. We have to keep us company, 2 dogs, a cat, a parakeet, some plants and flowers. I help my mother with the chores. I wash, she dries, I do the floors. We work together. I shop and sew and cook a bit, though she does too, I must admit. I do it better. At night I work in a strange bar, impersonating every star. I'm quite deceiving. The customers come in with doubts and wonder what I'm all about. But leave believing. I do a very special show where I am nude from head to toe. After strip-teasing, each night the men look so surprised. I change my sex before their eyes. Tell me if you can, what makes a man a man? Round 3 o'clock or so I meet with chums to have a bite to eat and conversation. We talk and empty out our hearts on every subject from the arts to liberation. We love to pull apart someone or spread some gossip just for fun or start a rumor. We let our hair down, so to speak, and mock ourselves with tongue-in-cheek and inside humor. So many times we have to pay for having fun and being gay. It's not amusing. There's always those to spoil our games by finding fault and calling names, always accusing. They draw attention to themselves at the expense of someone else. It's so confusing. Yet they make fun of how I walk and imitate the way I talk. Tell me if you can, what makes a man a man? My masquerade comes to an end when I go home to bed again. Alone and friendless, I close my eyes and think of him and fantasize what might have been. My dreams are endless. We love each other, but it seems this love lives only in my dreams. It's all one-sided. Though in this life I must confess, the search for love and happiness is unrequited.